for you. I am making sure that you see what you're supposed to see. So I'm turning this way. Okay. Is that better, you guys? Can you see me? Mm-hmm. Okay. Hello. Okay, so you can see me. Okay. All right. I just want to make sure, because I have to turn the camera a different direction for you to see what I see. Okay, first I'm going to talk to you. And now can you see me? I hope so. I was hoping to have it here show up on my other so I could also see. There we go. Okay. Right now, I guess you're looking at my favorite, several of my favorite artists. Okay, and it should resume shortly. Okay, so at this point, I'm Nancy Bergman, and I'm going to take and talk to you and show you what I do with lustres. Okay. 2 seconds. You guys are seeing me, right? Okay. Okay, so as I'm going to start first that I'm Nancy Bergman. I live in Minnesota, way up north in the center of the United States, but not too far north. Actually, it's a lovely, lovely area. I am has ended. Huh. Well, it's hard for me to know if it's gone on or not, but I hope that everything is good. But anyhow, I'm here to take and show you my version of lustres. I've worked with lustres since 1976. I started, it was just by accident, so I wasn't starting for any particular reason. The piece that I am going to show you today is a 3-dimensional vase. It's a Ming jar. And what I've done is I've painted the poppies on sideways, and I've decided to decorate the top so that it looks like the big seed pod in the middle. So it's a modern version, it's my interpretation, and it's meant to just be for fun. So in part of this, when we work with this, I will be showing you demonstrations on a flat coupe plate so that I can show you more, because I don't have a lot of these Ming vases to show you all the different stages. The very first thing I'm going to talk to you about is the luster, what we're going to accomplish today. And the 3 things that we will accomplish are the luster, and talking about luster, talking about our art language with luster, and luster application. I have also going to show you how to work with a funnel pen to use for luster and for gold. And I will be working with colored non-ping so that I can show you different techniques with that. I hope that... Is this going? Oh, okay. All right. I have set things up. So the very first thing I want to do is talk to you a little bit about my setup. My setup is done so that because I work with lustres, I want to set it up so that everything is done, because you have to work fast. You have to work very fast with lustres, and you have to be in a dust clean area. So what I like to work with is a 2 tissue paper that you would like wrap presents with. And then underneath I put a blank newspaper paper. And the reason for these two types of paper are they're pretty much lint free because they're bonded material to take and make these. Whereas if you use a paper towel, that has a short fiber in there, and what happens is those short fibers get in your brush and in your luster, and I want to avoid that. The other thing, so I have my setup, and this is where I wipe my brushes so that I do not collect any dust or lint or anything like that. I'm going to show you how to take and work with the tools that I have. I like to work with synthetic brushes. So I will go through each one. And the synthetic brushes here are, I have a set that I like to take and sell. And it's, you know, a set of 8. But you can split this with your friends. But the reason why I like this particular set is for longevity. And also it has a spring, so to speak, from the bristles. So it kind of gives it a little bit of a fight back so that I don't have a limp paintbrush. And also I want to let you know that working with Lustres that you do not want to use a watercolor paintbrush because those brushes will suck up all of your paint. So you're not actually getting it onto the porcelain, you're just putting it in your brush. One of my main rules of thumb when it comes to painting with my lusters and my brushes is I never hold my brush like this once it's fully loaded with luster. And the reason is I do not want that paint to get into the ferrule, because once it's in the ferrule, then my paints start to get muddy. But if I always paint like this, paint down with the direction done correctly, I can pretty much keep these brushes fairly clean and they last a long time. So here are my brushes, and I only have this many brushes when it comes for color, 4. So the first brush is my pink brush. I've had this brush for about 15 years, and I write right on there, pink. And this brush is only to be used for my pink colors. Pinks are touchy. They have a tendency to take and turn blue if you use a dirty brush or if you don't apply them correctly. Different temperatures will make them blue, and they all by themselves can be a problem. So I only suggest that when you're using pinks to be more advanced with your lusters. A lot of times people think that lusters are very easy, but what I like to explore and why it's exciting for me is it's a challenge. 1, 2, you really can't see the colors until they're fired. So you're guessing, and the reason why it works well for me is I really know my colors. And in knowing the colors, I have several different ways of communicating that with my students. And I know you're going to hate this, but one way is my price sheet. And I know it's a price sheet, but it's been developed so, I hope you can see it. It's been developed so that it has done by color categories. And so I have my orange family, my blue family, my green family. Am I not on? Am I not on? I have a sneaky feeling I'm not on. Am I not on? Oh, no. Go back. Continue. Okay. All right. So I am on. All right. It's hard to tell you guys. I'm sorry about that. So I'm very nervous about this. So when it comes to my price sheet, what's nice about it is it's also in color family. So I have, but it shows the intensity of each color. So when I ask you for a light color orange, you know to go for an amber color or a running orange. So you know, and the same thing with a light blue versus a dark blue. You know what colors you're using. So I have also set this up so that you know so that you know that the column in the next column is things that are in the that I purchased. These are the colors that I've purchased in Europe. So eventually down the road, I may not be able to get those colors from Europe anymore. So I've started to work with colors that are made in the United States, and that's the blue column. And the colors made in the United States are different than the colors made in Europe. They're thinner, and they will always be red in color when they're painted. And then after they're fired, they're a beautiful color. I have, then it's the size or quantity that you will be receiving, the price. But another valuable line over here is the fact that I have each color listed by the best cone to fire it at. For example, if I want a ruby red, I know that the hottest I can go is cone 019, because I'm sure a lot of you have learned over the years that some colors start to go a little brown, and that means that you're actually firing it too hot. So I just want you to take and realize that temperature matters with some of this. And so when you, and if you're working with a Celsius number, you can convert that once you see the, there's different charts that will compare so you can get the right firing amount. I have, this isn't working, is it? I'm worried, you guys. How do you tell? Well, I hope I'm working. Okay, well, I'm going to just keep going. Okay, then the next thing that I will talk about are my brushes. Okay, so I have the 4 brushes. The first brush is labeled yellow, and then we have pink, and then I have mother of pearl. Always, always keep your mother of pearl separate from any of your other brushes, because once that gets dirty, your colors will be gray, and you will not be able to tell, you won't be able to clean it out. There's been several myths when it comes to mother of pearls. When when I use mother of pearl, I consider mother of pearl, rainbow, Mardi Gras, iris, opal. I consider them all pretty much the same thing. They all work the same way, and it's all in the application and the condition of your luster. So that's what we're going to learn today. So I have started several sample plates, and then I'll go to my little 3-dimensional vase. So the very first thing is today I will be using as an all brush, a round pointed brush, a number 10, synthetic. I have, I'm going to draw onto my plate just a little bit. And when I work with my plates, I like to make them a little off center because I don't like the bullseye effect. So I'm just, haphazardly drawing my center on there. And I really don't have an exact form because the lusters will change it anyway. So the very first thing I want you to realize is I'm going to put a line work or pen work on here, and I'm going to use my funnel pen, which is the reason why I use the red Stabilo is I can see it, where if I used a black Stabilo, I will not be able to see where I put my lines. So this is my center point, and that's just a really nice way to take and do pen work with lusters. The slower you go, the fatter the line. The faster you go, the quicker and thinner the line. Oh, also remember when you use the Stabilo marking pen, not a pencil, because the pencil will leave oil marks and grit, so you don't want that. You want the pen. And when you order it online, you want a Stabilo OH pen. The I don't know what it stands for, but you can get it in blues, greens, black, red, and I choose the red because I can see it the best. And you can order that online. It's really easy. Okay, the next stage of painting is the this is how I kind of just draw it on quickly. And when I draw it on, I want to make sure that my petals I have a light petal and I have 2 dark petals and 2 medium petals. And maybe I might switch that round and make this a dark petal and a medium there. So when I start to paint this, then you'll see what's going to happen and how I use my brush strokes. I have 2 examples of plates that I painted, and this is a first fire, and this plate is in the lighter tones, but you can see I've used, when it comes to the colors I've selected, I have yellow, amber, yellow green, orange, aurora, and I have midnight blue. On this very first one, I used violet, and it's much darker than I wanted, but it's okay. It's still pretty. I would never use black with the in a poppy because I feel that when I look at a poppy, it's more of a purplish blue. So, and when I painted these, I painted them so that by the petal, so that I can adjust and roll and make the luster work, which you'll see in a few seconds. This one that I painted is a second fire, which means I can go in and layer my colors so that I get darker, and it'll get darker and darker. And on this piece, you can see the more you layer it, the darker it will get. So now I'm going to paint a flower for you guys. Oh, I almost forgot. I want you, before I start going, is to see how this is my color palette. And on top of each bottle, I have put a colored chip so that I can identify my paint, and I know when I reach into or go for my color palette, I know exactly what I'm getting. Because sometimes, I can pour up, it's called the same thing, and I can pour up a bottle and it may be different. So I really want to make sure that I always have a color chip on top so that I can reach it quickly and I know exactly what I'm getting. So when I set up my paints for painting, I'm going to adjust this just enough. I set it up so that I have my Terp Natural, which is what I use to clean my brushes and clean them only. And this is a can, it comes in the green colored can. It's expensive, so if you have a group, get them together and get the bigger one and then split it, and you can all share in the cost. I prefer to have my Terp Natural clean for when I clean my mother of pearl brush or my pink or yellow. The reason why I have those 3 separate is, they're lighter in colors. So when I start working with my all brush, I always have to wipe it dry and then maybe touch it up to be cleaned a little bit and then go into my next color. But you'll see as I start to paint. Okay, I also have a luster essence. The luster essence that I use, is from the company. It's the company that manufactures the lusters in Germany. and I feel that they know best what to take and use for their products. So I don't buy from the hardware store, because the hardware store is, you know, it's that type of turpentine and solvent is used for your husband, what your husband wants to do, maybe work on wood or thin paint in the garage to paint the walls. So it's adjusted for those type of items. You go to an auto store and those paints are adjusted for auto paints. So this particular solvent is adjusted for lusters, and that's why I use it. When I set up my colors, I set them up in a row as I will use them, and also light to dark. So if you are not familiar with these colors, then you just go to your chart and figure out which ones are lighter and darker. And really, it makes a huge difference to know your colors. So when I take the cover off, because I work in a 2-minute window, and you'll see what I'm talking about in just a few seconds. But that 2-minute window is why I have to have my bottles ready, my paintbrushes ready, and I can just go quickly. So in order to keep it straight on what I'm working with at that time, I put the names and the colors behind it so I can identify it without having to read the labels. So now I'm all set and ready to go for painting. So again, I'm using the round number 10 synthetic, and I've cleaned it, but I always, just to be on the safe side, I always clean it again. And see, this is where I wipe my brush off, is on this tissue paper, so that I know I will not get any lint. Before I paint, I always take a clean piece of tissue paper and I wipe off the piece. So one, the reason why I'm doing this is to get rid of static electricity, and two, to get any dust that just has fallen, because it's constantly falling down and being dusty. So with this particular, now that I'm ready and I've got my paints ready, I'm going to take this brush and I'm just going to fully load it, give it a little tap there. And remember, I have my light petal first. And when I paint this, I will only do one petal at a time. And if I go over 2 minutes, what happens is the lusters become too dry to manipulate. So I really want to work quickly. So I'm going to start here, and I take my brush and I lay it down flat and I pull it, and see when I lift up what happens? The luster leaves a deposit there. And so what I do when I start working with more of my color is I start to get that deposit thick enough. I want to bring it down to the more of the center, because remember, this is my light petal. And a lot of times if I miss a spot, it always shows up in a triangle. So I want to make sure you get that covered too. So because this is my lighter petal, I'm just blocking in the color so that I can manipulate it in a few seconds. So I'm still blocking it in, bringing it down. Okay, I'm done with this color, and I'm wiping it dry until I don't see that color anymore. Now I can go right into the next color, which is my amber. And now I'm going to take and create some of my folds. So as I come in here and lift up, see, I left it part way because I want to turn my plate and let it run and runs into each other. So the more it bleeds into each other, the prettier and more free, and it's not such a stiff look. I can manipulate these colors and pull this together. So I'm still not in my 2-minute window yet. I'm wiping this dry, and I want to add a touch of green over here, and I might be able to get my turn back to be a little more, there we go. So I'm wiping that dry. So now my goal is to roll it and rock it and hold it up and down until I can get it to be smooth. And I want to take advantage of what the luster does to each other. The luster has a tendency to be a little on the polar side, so it'll either push or attract. And what happens is, as it does that, and see this little run, I want to curve it. And by curving it, oh, I missed a spot. There we go. By curving it, I can get it to take and now show some movement in my flower, because I don't want my flower to be flat looking. Okay, I'm going to turn it again. And this is, because what happens is when those ridges, see this ridge right here? When that ridge starts, if I left that alone and fired it, what's going to happen is that ridge will fire off. So by turning it, and I'm still in that 2-minute window, hopefully, I can get it to fill and bleed into this right here. And actually, it may be even creating, by doing that, its own turn back. So now I see a ridge developing over here. So I'm going to turn that so that it starts to flow this way and flattens out. And what I'm looking for here is to get my lustres to be the flattest that they can be. Because if it's too thick, you won't get this effect. And I'm going to quick show you what I mean by thin. I like my lustres to be thin like water. And now let me put it over here. And thin like water is, watch this drip. Whoops, maybe not. Come on, one more drip. If it's thick like honey, and see how it moves around? If it's thick like honey, you're not going to get any movement. You're not going to get it to do all these fun little lines and fun little things like that. So you need to make sure that when you're working with your lustres that you have it in the right condition. So thin like water, not syrup, and not honey. If you, now I'm going to go to my next color, which is my medium set of colors, because I always work from light to dark. And now I'm going to go straight for my orange. And I want, because this is where I'm going to bring it across and down. Let it, lift it up so that I have a little pool there. Lift it up. Lift it up. Let it run into each other. Coming around, coming around. I'm going to wipe it off. Let it flow from different sides. I'm going into the Aurora. And I'm going to start about midway and come in and let it lift up. Come straight down and give it. Now, because I'm working by the petal, I have more control over the direction of my drips. So I want this to come down and around. Now I'm going to turn this one a little bit. And once in a while, I might not like the direction it's going. So I give it a little help. It's okay. And so really what I'm doing right now is letting the darker orange run on top of the lighter orange. And see where it started to build up? Now I'm creating a third or a fourth color. And it's actually pretty cool. I like this drip a lot. So as I'm turning this, that drip's going to come around and look a little bit on the, there it goes. It's going to come around and curve like it's got a little water drip on there. So where it's too thick, I'll just lightly tap it. To get that to come off. Now again, because it's starting to build up and it's starting to build a ridge, I'll turn it in different directions until I'm happy. Remember, it's okay to help it along, but not a lot. And I'm still in that 2-minute window, and see the line that I just created? I hope you can see it. That will fill in. It just will fill in. So if I had a hair there, I could go in and pick it up and it will fill in. But if I wait until it's dry and then I try to pick that hair up, I'm not going to be successful. And I want that to come this way just a little bit. So I'm happy with the way this one's working out. So I'm actually decided to take and move this other medium petal over here. So I'm going to start with my orange and come down, lift up. I'm going way back here, lift up. And this time I'm going to try something different. So I'm just taking a touch of cleaner, give it a roll, and I'm going to put a little bit of yellow up here on the top. And I'm going to let it roll into the darker color. So the more it bleeds into it, the more fun I can have. So now I'm going to add a little bit of Aurora on the bottom, pull it up, and let these two colors play together for a little bit by rolling it back and forth, holding it so that it bleeds into each other. But see, because now this one is going this way, I can't hold it the same way. So again, remember, one petal at a time, and you can control the curve. If I go too fast and I start this one, then it may run into this one, and I don't want. And see this nice, beautiful little dark ridge there? It's starting to bleed over, but it's got this beautiful concept that it's got these little tiny ridges, and that's just created because it, the way it wants to. If I didn't do it, it's the way the luster is. However, I'm not happy with how thick it is right there, and I know when I fire it, it will fire off. If I were to let this dry overnight and I rub my hand across it, and if I feel ridges, I know wherever I felt the ridge, that would fire off. But if it's nice and smooth, I know it will not fire off. So my medium colors, now this is my opportunity to play around. So I'm just touching a little bit of my cleaner because I'm going to put my yellow green down. Just anywhere in there. I don't really care. Wipe that clean. Well, since I did do that, I'm going to use my yellow brush for this particular part. Now I'm going in with my yellow. Nice and clean. And let it just kind of move around. And I'm just going to do a touch of Aurora through here and in here. And see, already I got a little too close, so it already went over onto that other petal, which I'm okay with. It's always, the main thing when it comes to lusters, once something happens, it's the problem solving. So I just pulled it back a little bit and let it bleed up in here so that it's not so obvious. Now it looks like it's supposed to. If by chance you get a drip and you don't like where it's going, just wipe it back. There. And I'm just going to add now a little bit of amber because to me, amber is like an orange mother of pearl. And so it'll give it some extra highlights, even though I don't know what it will be for highlights until I fire it. So again, I'm just lightly turning this, hopefully that this will all run in the directions that I want it to go. Let it flow down. You can even see it running. And as it's coming down and around, I'm going to lightly tap this. Oh, I might even give it an opportunity to run this way for a second or two. There, nice. And there's a little spot there I missed. Just take care of that. Let it go back and forth. Again, maybe just a tad too dark here. And even by my touching it many times, now I've actually created a little ridge, like a zigzag almost. And it's kind of fun. You won't see it till you fire it, but it's kind of fun. So I'm pretty much done with the way this is running. So I'm just going to take off the heaviness, wipe it over here. Oh, I see a heavy spot over here. I want to catch that before I put it into the kiln here too. So I just catch those right away, so it just makes it easier to take and work. All right, now my last petal is really my darkest petal, and so I'm not even going to, you know what, just to give it so it has something to run against, I'm going to give it a little bit of amber in here. That's too much. Fill this in, overlap it, but I'm going to really use more Aurora on top. So this is the first time I'm probably ever going to say almost cover the color, because when I apply the colors, I never let them, I put my first base down and then I put the other colors in so that it can roll and bleed. If I just put it down side by side, it just stays where it's at. And I'll show you what I'm talking about when I do the center. So here, all I did was I gave it a base for that Aurora to have an opportunity to run. And see how it's nicely smoothing around? So it's same thing happens with watercolors. If you don't put water down first for the color to absorb into your paper, it won't do what you want it to do. Oh, I really like this one. So this is perfect. So all that red that you see in here, that's just my marker, and that'll all be gone. You will not see that after it's fired. So since I want my center to be a combination of yellow, green, and yellow, and the purpose for this is, so now I'm going to come in and give myself some dots of green, and right now I'm using it with the brush because I want it to be a larger dot. It might be hard for you to see, but it's just breaking it up to make it more fun. It's starting to push and pull, and you can see it. There's starting to be some lights and darks. Then I'm going to take one of these little brushes. You all have these, I'm sure. They're little micro mini brushes. You get them, their dentist has them, but you can order these online, and you know, they're different sizes and stuff. But the reason why I like them is they make these perfect little dots, and I'm just going to show you right on my white paper here. It just you go straight down and you get these nice dots. Well, paper will bleed more. But now I'm going into my midnight color, which is a dark blue, and I'm going to get enough on here, not too much, and I'm just going to put my dots in because I want to make that crown, and I'm just going straight down, and see, it starts to make kind of a marbleizing look, and that's what I'm after. See how it's bleeding together? If I had too much paint on there, it would pull and bleed out, and then I'd have all these ridges that I don't want. In fact, I see one right here. I'm just going to dot away. Remember, I just take it off because it's just going to fill in. I really like this. This will be pretty. And so I'm just going to, so basically at this stage, I consider this ready for my first fire at cone 017. So this one is ready to go. I'm going to pretend that that one is fired and that this is we're going to now put the second fire on this. So again, I get my tissue paper. I wipe it off so that there's no lint, because lint is our enemy. If I see, you know, right away when I have a student and I see lint on it, I know they never wiped off their plate, because I never get lint when I do this. Okay, so this is my second fire piece, I've got my yellow brush here, and I'm just going to very lightly add some yellow across the top here. If I want it to be a little bit bigger there. And so when it fires, you can kind of see it right now. It actually looks yellow, but that's what I'm hoping for, is it will look yellow, like it's turned over. I'm going to add another one over here, right about in here, so that it looks like it's turned over. I hope you can see that. And it actually leaves a darker mark in the middle, especially when you push. The best thing and the most practiced thing that you're going to need to do as a new person with luster is how to control your brush so that you can get it to take and do certain things. Because even here, I've gotten that luster to be light here and it's darker on the edges. So it's all about brush control. And you've heard that a million times from all your other China painters. So let's see, I think that I would like one more spot to have that yellow. So I'm coming in here and I'm just going to come right across. There, I like it. All right, so now I'm going to take my awl brush. Actually, I'm going to use my pointed one because I consider that an awl brush also. Give it a good cleaning at this point because I have been working with a lot of colors. So now I think what I'd like to do is get some darker color in here and across here. Even though I've got it light, it's still going to come across quite nice. So I'm just putting a little bit of orange in here. And every time I layer orange, the orange will just get darker. So I'm going right over top of that blue mark, and it doesn't bother me at all. And I don't want it to be a straight line, so I'm kind of zigzagging it in there. It's very thin, very light, and I don't think you can see it at this point, but you'll see it once it's fired. Then a little bit of aurora. And I kind of want that aurora to be coming in right under here because it's darker, remember, and I'm zigzagging it and pulling it in. I'm not crazy about this spot, so I think I'm going to give it some more orange and just lightly bring it down. And then I'll wait till the third fire to see how I want to, if I need to change that even more. I am going to bring a little bit of orange in here at different lengths. Let it run back and forth if it wants to. If it doesn't, that's okay. Now I'm going to bring a little bit of aurora on this particular piece into the side so that it's darker around this edge of the poppy, the center of the poppy. Oop, I almost went in the wrong one. So I am never a straight line, always kind of a free-flowing line. And then I'm going to put some more in the center. And this is where I'm going to now, I don't know why, I just feel like doing it. I'm going to try this and dab it off a little. And right in the center, I'm going to give it some more dots. But it has to be in the wet. So it's wet in wet, wet on wet. And let that bleed out. And I think it'll be kind of fun, to be quite honest with you. So to be honest, I'm going to fire this and let it be. So I may find on the third fire, I might add a little bit of orange, but I really love the pastel, almost transparency that's happening here and in here, and that's perfect for a poppy. So now this one is actually my second fire poppy, and it's been added to. I do have a spot here that I don't like. And so what I generally would do would be using that erase off, which is kind of like Wink, but not. And it's very, very, you have to be very, very careful with it. As an artist, I wouldn't, it's something you just have to be very careful with. So at this point, I'd like this particular poppy to have some more orange going on. So I'm going with my amber, and I'm giving it some extra through here. No, I want that a little more. There. A little more here. And as you can tell, it's definitely different than your China paint, but it's just so much fun. It's just too much fun. I'm just adding little ticks, so to speak, of color in here because I don't want it to be a big surprise by any means. And now remember, the first batch that I did on this one, these are all blended colors. So if something flakes off or if I add to it, now I'm adding pure color. So what happens with that pure color, sometimes it gets to be too strong. And you will find that you're not going to be happy with it. It might look like a magic marker or something else has happened to it. So what I do sometimes on this, and I know it's going to be really hard to tell, is I just lightly tap the edge of that so that that doesn't look so harsh when it's fired. Because trust me, it will look harsh. Same over here. I'm just going to tap that edge down to give it a softening. There, it's pretty easy. I do like the center. Right now it doesn't look too much like a poppy to me, but it still has potential and lots of work to go. So again, I might add another shade of green going underneath here just to darken that up. And then I'm going to put a little bit of Aurora with it and see what happens. Sometimes even these colors, I don't think I've ever put green and Aurora together, to be honest with you, on wet on wet. So this will be kind of fun. I kind of like that. And I'm just going to let it bleed into each other like I did those dots in the center of that other one. If I think it's going to be too harsh, I can tap it down. Because I can always come back and add another color. I have pieces in this room that my landscapes and stuff, I've painted probably and fired 10 or 12 times. So you can do a lot with that. Now I'm going to do the background, which is mother of pearl. And I know that everybody thinks that they're experts on mother of pearl, but I've seen some bad mother of pearl out there. And the reason why I want to talk about mother of pearl is when I first started painting, I was told to paint the mother of pearl on and sponge it. And, they had these tiny, tiny little sponges and it took you forever. And to me, it never looked pretty. And then I would see some other people would put mother of pearl on it and it was just gorgeous. So finally, I just kept playing with it. And because I wasn't really told a yes or a no on how to apply it. So I like my mother of pearl to have, look at all that fire. That's a beautiful amount of fire. So another thing that was told many years ago was to put your mother of pearl on and take your finger and wipe, cause a little circle or a little disturbance. And to me, all that did was just look like a fingerprint going through and causing a disturbance. So I'm going to show you the way I like to put mother of pearl on. So now remember, I'm going to use my mother of pearl brush. I'm going to put it in here, fully loaded. And I'm still following my 2-minute rule, and I'm going to follow that. And even though that this little orange mark shows, I don't think it's going to disrupt my mother of pearl. So I'm coming in here, I'm getting it in as close as I can, trying not to get it to run onto anything, and I just block it in. And I want my 2-minute rule to take and follow. Make sure I don't get it on the bottom. Oh, by the way, I should be telling you guys to be wearing gloves. Obviously, I don't. Gloves and a mask if you're first time, if you're not used to this. I also wear finger cuts. So I'm just blocking it in, getting it smooth so you don't see a lot of brush strokes. Giving it a few seconds to roll back and forth. And now I'm going to go back in to my mother of pearl, and I'm going to give it a couple more seconds. I'm going to give it a big dot and a big dot and a big dot. And now I'm just going to rock it and roll it back and forth until it's smooth. Because the more that it bleeds into that first layer, that's where those beautiful lime greens and pinks come from. Because I also, with a lot of beginners, I hear this so often. Oh, I'm going to take mother of pearl and pink and put it together. And what happens is when you put pink and mother of pearl together like this, it turns gray. So you don't want that. To get the pink with mother of pearl, this is the only way, is by it bleeding and pushing, and you'll see once it's fired, it gets this beautiful, beautiful, beautiful fire like an opal. So the more you rock and roll it back and forth so it's nice and smooth, the better off you will be. If it gets thick, get your brush in there and change that up. Oh, I got a couple more spots I want to take and hit. Okay, now because I'm working in a bigger spot, again, you know, I've already had my 2-minute window there, and see where I touched it, it immediately went into building it up. So that's what I'm trying to avoid, so I will have to go back and touch that up. So again, my 2-minute window, I'm going quick, quick, quick. As fast as I can, because I want to get it in here. And if I have to touch it up, mother of pearl is the easiest to touch up. Like if it flakes off or if I miss a spot, it will always, you just go in and you touch it exactly where it is. Don't go over the whole thing. Just touch it where it missed, where the white is showing through. And I got a little in here and a little in here because I want that to show up. So I'm going back in, fully loaded. Give it a swirl. Keep moving it around. Don't stop. Okay, so I guess a little bit more down here. Now remember, over here it was beyond my 2-minute window, so it's still thick, and so I'm just going to take it away. But down here I want to roll it around until I'm happy with it. And even if it overlaps onto my colors here, I'm okay with that too, because sometimes it can be really, really pretty. So wherever it's gotten to be thick, see, now I'll turn it the other way and let it run the other way, and now it will bleed back into the second layer, and I might even get, you know, a different color yet. I might get those lavenders to start to show up. So that's why I keep rolling it back and forth so that I can get those fabulous colors. Make sure I have my mother of pearl brush. Yep. This time I'm going to go in with a dry brush and get some of that excess away, because I don't want it to fire off. I want it to stay here, but so I just take it away, and because I'm it's still wet, it still fills in, and I feel comfortable with that. It's still wet enough to roll it back and forth and let it bleed. So this will be really fun. And I have left some areas alone because it just adds interest to that mother of pearl. And again, if I don't like the ridge, I just tap it down until I'm happy with it. I only tap it down with this part of my brush because I don't want to lay the brush flat, because if I do, now I'm creating a brush stroke, or it's just not pretty. So only go in and touch it like this. All right. Actually, I'm pretty happy with that. If I had a little more time, I'd probably rock and roll it a little bit more. So I'm going to set it at an angle so that it will run in a different direction, and I'll move that every so often. So now, because I showed you this on a flat dish, I'm going to just quick show you how to paint the poppy on this one, so how you see it as it's the side of the poppy. You're looking at it from this direction, and I want you to see it from the side. So again, I'm using my all round brush. See, it's still a little on the dirty side, so I want to get it till, there we go. Okay, so now I'm going to go in with my yellows first and block in my color. And I'm just putting it on here, blocking it in. And I have to stay, for what I'm putting on at this moment, I have to stay in that 2-minute window. So okay, now I have to move on to, I'm going orange right off the bat. And I want it to look like it's the side of the petal. So even if it starts to drip down, I want to catch it. And so now I'm going to let it run this way if I can, and give it some help. Just putting it in there. Whoop, I don't want it to run that way. I want it to run towards the center. Okay, now I'm going to put my amber in, because it's got a little bit of a mother of pearlness to it, and hopefully that will give it a highlight that I'm looking for. It's going to be really hard to tell and see this not until it's fired, which is too bad that we won't be able to see it. Well, you'll see this one fired, but and I'm going to quick. So at this point, I am almost beyond my opportunity to paint those petals. Okay. Excuse me. I don't know. That's not you, is it? I hope not. Okay, so I'm going to finish this up. And let it run into each other. You guys, it's really hard to know if you can see me or not, so I hope everything is well. See, even right here, I'm just going to let it drip back onto the yellow and the orange, because that was the amber. Well, I'm going to fill this spot in because that's white. Okay. And now, because I'm getting darker as I go down, I'm going to take the Aurora and create some fun little underneath coats, and I'm going to paint that aurora and these coats maybe 2 more times. So it'll be fired and then painted again to get it so that I can get to this look right here. And so here I pulled it out so it's the side of the petal, and it's more than one poppy. So here's a poppy, here's a poppy, and another one, and then there's the big one on top. So the purpose is to take and just make it as modern looking, and it's to be a bunch of poppies. I'm just painting that in, and you'll see that even some of this is going to be kind of fun, the way it's building up and playing together. So here I have my poppy, and I'm just pulling it in. This is going to be a petal. Sorry, I bet my arm was in the way, sorry. So I've got a little bit of whiteness in there, so I'm just going to take my amber and catch that ridge as it comes down and let it just bleed together so that it kind of does some fun things. Going in here with some more amber. You know, I'm going to try a little bit of yellow in here to kind of brighten this one up like it's a turn back. And come back in. Oh, I really like how this one's working out. This will be a fun one. So right now, you guys can't tell what anything is going to happen. You might be able to see a little bit of the formation, but not until it's fired. And then once it's fired, I will come back and fire it 2 more times to make it a really pretty dark orange and give it some excellent color. So, oh, see right here, remember I said about the ridges? What happens is it starts to build up because it's sitting like this. So just let it sit like this for a little bit, and that will smooth out, and then I'll go through and let it drip back down again. Because I see all these little ridges where it bled together. That's where you get those really cool, you know, little striping and little almost like agate looking. So that's the cool part. That's what's going to happen here. So basically what it is you have to learn to let the luster do things. The more you try to control the luster, the stiffer it's going to look. And I want it to look free flowing. I want it to almost look transparent. So that to me is one of my favorite ways of painting, because I can get that transparency look with not a, you know, and it's all by knowing what my colors will do, knowing how they interact